Hey, good morning, everyone. Very good to see you all. Thanks so much for joining today's webinar, the end of MailCheck and WebCheck, how you in the public sector can continue to keep your online assets secure. For those that don't know me, my name is Billy McDermott. I'm the VP of Customer Engineering at Red Sift. When you talk to us at some point, you will probably speak to me or someone in my wonderful team of security consultants. It's a real pleasure to be here. Unfortunately, you are just stuck with my face today. Our special guest was unable to attend, so I'm really sorry about that. But he has passed on some pearls of wisdom, which I will share and embed in to the presentation as we go, as well as you having my point of view. There's lots of people in the room. Thanks so much for everyone who's been able to come along today. We really appreciate it. I hope you will be able to take some actionable insight away from the session. As always, these are interactive. So please, if you do have any questions, drop them into the chat. I will be absolutely delighted to help and answer any questions where I possibly can. So the agenda today, it's an interesting area. It's something that, to be honest, has been ongoing now for about 18 months. What we're talking about is NCSC withdrawing both the mail check and the web check service. This started towards the tail end of 2024. Actually, when NCSC announced that they would be removing aggregate reporting from the mail check service, and the advice continues, but there was also a further announcement that they would be fully withdrawing all of the mail check and web check services. So we're going to talk about what that means for you. We're going to talk about how you can evaluate replacement options. What do you need now moving forward? Are free tools sufficient? Or should you be looking at the commercial options, which, to be honest, is what NCSC are recommending? And I'll talk a little bit more about that. I'll talk about the Red Sift alternatives and what we can actually help you with in the public sector. What options do you have to mitigate the risks that actually come from with the withdrawal of MailCheck and WebCheck? And then we'll open up for questions and answers. So we should take around 30 minutes or so to walk through this. You will get a recording of this afterwards, so please, you'll be able to watch again, or you'll be able to share with colleagues. But as I said, this is interactive. Please do, if you do have any questions, let me know. First of all, just a brief point about Red Sift. If you haven't spoken to us before, if you don't know who we are headquartered in London on Knoll Street in Soho. We are a UK founded organisation. We remain a UK based organisation, but we do have a global presence, and we work with a number of the largest brands both in the UK and in the world. We work very closely already with actually probably now into the hundreds of public sector organisations in the UK, as well as working with the private sector. You can see some of the organisations that we work with, people like Cisco, people like ITV, people like TUI, people like BP trust us with their security every single day. Our mission, we exist to help you create a fundamentally safer internet. That is our goal. We want to provide you with tools that help you to ensure that your web services and your email services are as secure as possible. So let's move on to the topic at hand. What is actually changing? What should you be looking at moving forward? As you probably do know, and that's the reason why you're here today, is that NCSC is withdrawing the free mail check and web check services fully from the 31st of March 2026. And that means that organizations in the public sector that have been benefiting from those services for the past 7 years since their introduction should be looking at an alternative. Now, why has the NCSC withdrawn those services? Well, actually, simply put, the NCSC is now in a situation where it believes that the commercial sector now provides viable alternatives. That wasn't always the case. If we think back in time, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, when this solution was offered by NCSC, it was simply put, and it was made available because there weren't really many commercial options that were available on the market that allowed public sector organisations to quickly secure their email and their web infrastructure, and give complete visibility to the public sector of the assets that had to be created. These services were genuinely cutting edge for their time. The uptake was actually huge. And considering that they were completely free of charge to the public sector organisations, and the scope of organisations who could use the services was pretty large. It wasn't just government departments, it wasn't just local councils, it wasn't just parish councils. It was opened up to the health service, it was opened up to the charity sector, it was opened up to arm's length bodies. The value was absolutely superb. And even now, when I speak to our public sector customers, they recognise that it was a super solution. The problems they were solving were real, and it was a really simple way to actually help with the problem. The problem really was about the scale, as I mentioned, of the estate the public sector was monitoring. How do they get their arms around it? How do they make sure that everything is configured correctly? And how do they see what was really happening within their estate? It really did help to avoid configuration drift. Against the key standards that we're going to look at today, like DMARC, SPF, and DKIM, but also web standards, whether that was TLS or amongst others, DNS hygiene. There was lots of certificate hygiene as well, which we'll talk about as well. It made it easy to do, and it made it really accessible to do. But as I mentioned, NCSC are taking a step back because there are now commercial options available that meet these requirements in an affordable way. And I'll talk about that a little bit later on as well. So the timelines for this, as I mentioned, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, MailCheck and WebCheck were introduced. Then NCSC started on the ACD project. They partnered with industry leaders to expand capabilities. In 2024, the ACD 2.0 came out. NCSC explored ASM a little bit further. Actually, Red Sift, we did support that initiative. We, amongst other vendors, did actually contribute to the ACD 2.0 research, where they were looking into the market to see, oh, what's actually available? What do customers actually look at? And now this has led to the strategy shift where NCSC have taken that step back because those commercial alternatives exist. That's allowing NCSC to focus on commercial, on where the NCSC deliver unique value, and focus on other products, and lets commercial operators like Red Sift give them the space to actually support you within the public sector. Okay. Now that these alternatives are being are touted, and now that MailCheck and WebCheck are being replaced, what do you actually need? What should you be looking at? And something that's really key here to understand is that NCSC, as I mentioned, are not removing MailCheck and are not removing WebCheck because the risk has gone away. Just to be absolutely clear, the risk to email services, the risk to web services, and therefore the risk to the users that are actually benefiting those from your customers, okay, from the public to the public, is still very real. Okay, you still have to work towards UK government and NCSC guidelines. You have to ensure that you're using the standards in the right way to ensure that web assets and email assets are still configured. This is not NCSC saying this isn't a problem anymore. This is NCSC going, we want to focus on other things. There are commercial alternatives available to you now, so you should go and actually look into this. And there's 5 categories that you should be looking at that are actually available that were previously offered through the WebCheck and email service. The first one, of course, is email authentication. This is your defense against business email compromise. Okay, this is DMARC, SPF, DKIM. Okay, as I mentioned, MailCheck, the deprecation of that service, that started actually almost a year ago when they removed aggregate reporting. So if you're still relying on MailCheck and have been relying on MailCheck since 2025, earlier this year, you do not have visibility of all of your legitimate sending sources, who is sending emails from your domain. And importantly, you do not have visibility of who is sending and spoofing your domain. That's really clear. That has not been happening since the 1st of April. Now, we've got a large number of organizations in the public sector who have since then signed up with us and who are benefiting not only from the visibility that was lost, but also increased visibility through our forensic reporting, which was actually removed by MailCheck actually a few years ago. So this is the first area that you must look at. Simply put, if you only have the MailCheck reporting addresses in your DNS, if you are not consuming aggregate and forensic reports using some other method, you are not protected against business email compromise. The second area is web vulnerability scanning. Okay, how well actually are your web services and how well configured are your email services? How well actually are you using the standards? It's one thing, okay, making sure that you are issuing and deploying certificates, for example. Okay, it's another thing ensuring that those certificates are issued, deployed, and configured correctly. Additionally, we're entering a period of change, okay, in the ecosystem. Okay, with certificates, we've got post-quantum computing coming out. NCSC have been issuing a lot of different guidance. So you will, moving forward, have to ensure that your certificates are post-quantum computing compliant. Okay. Also, there's shortened timelines coming up. So issuance, Let's Encrypt have already started it. They've started to reduce the lifetime of certificates. Okay. So you need to ensure that actually you're meeting what the internet standards are with lifetimes as well. Thirdly, visibility. As I mentioned, one thing that WebCheck and MailCheck both did really well was give attack surface visibility, whether that's in email through your sending sources and the domains and the subdomains that are actually sending out email from the public sector, okay, or actually the registered domains and the registered subdomains that exist in DNS, okay. What is in DNS? Is the DNS configured correctly? Do you have any DNS hygiene issues? For example, do you have dangling DNS issues that could lead, okay, to a subdomain or a domain name takeover? Are there name server configuration issues that are leading to confidentiality or integrity or availability issues? Do you have cookie misconfigurations? Okay. Do you have misconfigurations in your header? Do you have third-party technologies in your web estate that are open to vulnerabilities and open to exposure? So having visibility of all of your web assets and all of your email assets, including everywhere that they are hosted, is a key necessity. It's something that you should have. Okay. And then finally, reporting, alerting, and remediation workflows. Okay. So how are you consuming the information? Where is it going to? Which members of your security team are actually actioning the findings that actually come through? Are you able to consume misconfiguration notifications into your SIEM? Okay. Can you receive an alert as soon as a new sending source is detected? Can you receive an alert that tells you when there's an SPF misconfiguration? Can you receive an alert that tells you when a cookie misconfiguration is detected? And then how do you actually fix that? Additionally, for the public sector, because it is part of the NCSC guidance, one area you should be looking at, and adoption is climbing of this, but is still fairly low, is MTA-STS support. Okay, it's mandatory effectively for secure government email, but adoption is a little bit low. Now, adoption is low because of all the different moving parts that are involved with MTA-STS and TLS-RPT, the reporting mechanism that actually supports it. Okay, you have to have a policy file hosted. You have to set up the DNS configuration, and you have to have a TLS certificate. So adoption is low because there's never been really an option through MailCheck to do this. Okay, there's never been a one-size-fits-all solution for MTA-STS that has meant it's easy to deploy. Okay, but Red Sift actually does, through its OnDMARC solution, does have an hosted MTA-STS solution, and is the only direct vendor on the G-Cloud 14 purchasing framework that offers hosted MTA-STS. So just to sum up this part, remember, just because NCSC is saying that it's no longer providing these services, the risk still exists. It just is simply that responsibility moves back to you and your organizations. Okay, you cannot, to use a phrase that my colleague has mentioned to me, you cannot assume coverage anymore. Okay, you cannot assume that NCSC is watching this and you will be told if something breaks. Okay, it is now within your responsibility to ensure that your web services and your email services are configured in the mandated and recommended way. Okay, it's your responsibility to ensure that the configuration, okay, of those web and email assets doesn't actually change. Okay, to quote Liam, who was unable to join us today, WebCheck and MailCheck were absolutely superb services, and I couldn't agree more with that. They were absolutely superb, but the risk doesn't change. It just simply changes who is responsible for it and who has to deal with it. Okay. So now that we know what the changes are, now we know what the responsibility actually is and where the responsibility actually lies, how should you be moving forward with this? And we'll be, and at this stage, a little bit agnostic because the market is very competitive. We naturally want you to come to us and talk to us and assess us. We hope that we will be the right offering and the right solution for you. But the public sector does have to look at other alternatives, and we can help you understand what you should be looking for. But here are areas to actually think about, particularly as we're talking about in a lot of different cases, particularly when it comes to DMARC, you are talking about some PII. So you do have to, first of all, think about compliance. Are the vendors you're talking to, are the ISO 27001 accredited? Are the vendors that you're talking to, do they hold cyber essentials? Okay, G-Cloud 14 and the new version, G-Cloud 15, okay, will both mandate ISO 27001 and cyber essentials moving forward. So you must ensure that any vendors that you're working with have at least those standards. But I would recommend that you look for vendors that go actually beyond that and have added additional controls. You're looking for evidence that they meet standards from other nations, for example, and global standards. So do they work towards PCI DSS, or have they achieved compliance, or have they self-attested to that? Do they take security so seriously that they're also they went through their SOC 2 Type 2 audit, for example? So you have to be certain that the organization you're working with treats the information that's been handled as seriously as actually you do. Secondly, data sovereignty. Okay, Red Sift hosts its OnDMARC service in a UK data center. Okay, it is there. It's in our IBM center. We are one of the only vendors that does actually offer UK hosting for its services. Additionally, think about the level of support. My absolutely wonderful team of consultants are the market leaders. There's no doubt about it. If you want the best advice when it comes to web and email security, you're working with the right people here at Red Sift. We are available 24/7, 7 days a week. We're available for training, for support, for implementation, for onboarding during UK time zones. Okay, so we are here and we are available to help you with this. And finally, what are the service levels that are actually provided to you? Okay, what offering is there? Can you have absolute confidence that the service being provided will not go down and will continue? At the end of the day, we're working in an environment where the availability of DNS is critical. The Red Sift hosted DNS offering as part of our OnDMARC has 100% uptime, and it has got multiple different failover methods. So that is what you are looking for. You're looking for vendors who can absolutely guarantee that email flow isn't going to be impacted because of an issue with Cloudflare. Okay, for example, we all know that these issues do actually happen. So these are things to think about as you're evaluating and as you're working with new vendors. Actually, my colleague he said something really clear here. Okay, this is and it ties into this theme and the previous slide actually a little bit as well. Contingency is a security control, not a procurement control. You need to ensure that the services that you are actually offering are secure. Do not leave this decision making up to procurement. It's important that you, as security people and as infrastructure people, do actually work. Now, additionally as well, there are plenty of free solutions that actually are available in the market. And actually, Red Sift, we have some free tooling that I'm going to show you that you should look at, and I would encourage you to use that. They do actually fit some of the criteria, okay? But the reality is that free tools are a little bit misguided. They only take you some of the way when it comes to meeting your obligations within the UK public sector. Okay, free alternatives will not give you hosted MTA-STS. Okay, free alternatives will only give you one-off checks. They don't give you continuous checking. They do not give you continuous asset discovery. I use a lot of these free tools myself. There are some of our competitors who claim, yeah, brilliant, use our free subdomain discovery tool. Okay, yeah, use it. And it's either going to give you so many false positives of host names that don't exist in DNS anymore, or it's only going to find a small amount of your estate. It's not going to give you comprehensive discovery of where web and email services are actually hosted. It won't give you impersonation detection, okay, to spoof your brand. Some free tooling may give you free aggregate reporting, okay, but it won't give you forensic reporting. Okay, it will not give you edge case failures or edge case spoofing attempts. And also, a lot of these free DMARC reporting tools are not UK hosted. Okay, they are not hosted where the Red Sift services are in an IBM data center in the United Kingdom. They are hosted in other countries as well. Additionally, in our experience, what we find is your sophisticated customers. Okay, the public sector are the most advanced security and infrastructure people that I often work with. So you will be looking for additional capabilities. You will need API access. Okay, you will want to consume the data yourself. You will want to integrate with your own infrastructure, connect to Azure, connect to AWS, connect to GCP, connect to OCI if you want to import cloud resource information. So free gives you some visibility, but commercial gives you complete control. Okay, so this is why free alternatives will get you some of the way, but to really meet the mark, you have to look at commercial alternatives. Okay, that's where you will benefit from solutions like MTA-STS and TLS RPT. It's where you benefit from continuous asset discovery, and it's where you will benefit from the API. Now, just one final point before I start to wrap up and start to look at questions. Okay. Remember, the biggest change here is actually, arguably, depends on your point of view, is the withdrawal of the free DMARC services from MailCheck. So not only the ability to check your configuration, okay, but the ability to receive the aggregate reports. DMARC is the foundation of your email security. Okay, Gartner have stated it very clearly recently. Okay, if you have not got the DMARC deployed at reject, okay, then your other protections will not actually defend you, because business email compromise will be allowed to take place at that DNS level. So it doesn't matter how good your SEG is. It doesn't matter how good your ATO protection is. It doesn't matter how good your security awareness training is. If you do not have the foundation of phishing defense correctly deployed using sophisticated tooling, you will still be at risk and you will still be exposed. So, what are the tools that are actually available to you? So, first of all, I just want to tell you about our free offering. As I said, free offerings are good, but they only get you some of the way. Okay, so you can go in and you can ask complicated questions about your assets on our new Radar Lite tool. Okay, this is a combination of the assessments that you'll know as hardenized, okay, from the past, and also the enhanced tools from Red Sift. Okay, so you can simply go in and ask complex security questions, okay, about how well certain assets are actually configured. And what it will actually do is give you answers and give an industry comparison. So it will look at DNS, TLS, web reporting, email. It will tell you what you should be configuring and why you should be configuring it. And it tells you how well you compare to other organizations within the public sector. Okay, so it's very clear, very real, very good advice on what to do. And this is great for one-off checks. This is great if you have an asset that is new and you just want to, it exists, and you just want to check how well or configured or otherwise it actually is. So brand new tool, just been released fully this week. But what you'll also see on redsift.com, when you go to free tools, you'll see our investigate tool, which helps you check your DMARC, SPF, and DKIM configuration. Our BIMI checker tools, which are now should be being used in the public sector. If you haven't used it before, there's no reason why you shouldn't be, because there is now CMC certificates that don't require trademarks, which is sometimes a blocker within the public sector. Okay, and we've also got our SPF checker, amongst other tools, free tools there like our certificates product. Okay. But otherwise, the tools that are available to you commercially through Red Sift are our OnDMARC product. This is a market-leading DMARC management tool that automates many of the steps that you have to take to get to a mature email security stance where your brand is fully protected. Okay. The application and our team combined will make sure that if you're already at reject, you will remain there. But for any new domains that are not benefiting from DMARC at the moment, we will automatically identify all your different sending sources, help you understand what configuration changes you need to make, and ensure that you follow the right processes to move from a policy of none through to quarantine, through to reject. The next tool is the attack surface monitoring tool, formerly known as Hardenise. This tool gives you complete real-time visibility of all of your registered domains, all of the subdomains, and then when combined with our certificate product, all of the certificates in your estate that have been issued, how well or otherwise they're configured, whether they're compliant with PQC, we're adding these checks as the new standards go in, when a certificate is due to expire and needs to be replaced, and what certificate authorities are issuing certificates in your name. So OnDMARC, ASM and certificates, when combined, gives you the tools to make sure that you're protected against exact domain impersonations, but also that your web and your email services are configured in line with the correct standards. So we're approaching the end of time. I hope that's been interesting and has given you some insight into what the changes are and what you need to do to adapt. I'm just going to look and take a look and see what questions we actually have got. Jack's been very kind and has posted a lot of the different resources that I have spoken about within the chat. And I'm just going to take a question. Thanks so much for this. This is a really good point, a really valid question to ask, actually. When it comes to OnDMARC, how long will the migration actually take from MailCheck over to the OnDMARC product? And actually, this can be done incredibly quickly. The reason for that is that we do find that the public sector in generally will have a fairly mature position. A lot of the domains will be at quarantine or will be at reject. Now, just because you're at that stage, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be benefiting from the visibility moving forward, because it only takes one new sending source, one new bit of shadow IT sending out emails to cause problems with your deliverability. So you must have tooling to give you visibility of what is sending out from your domains. But because you've probably done a good job at configuring most of your domains moving forward, it's a matter of weeks to actually migrate. Now, we do have our hosted DMARC solution. It's called Dynamic Services as well, which makes it even easier. Okay, and some people in the public sector choose to use that. Some don't, because of NCSC guidance about delegated DNS, and that's okay. But either way, the hosted version is very quick and very easy, and it means that you can make all of your configuration changes for sending sources within the OnDMARC product, or with OnDMARC anyway, you'll get complete visibility whether you're using hosted services or not. But we do have a free trial. You will be given a 14-day proof of concept. You can set up a domain and it will be reporting to us within a matter of hours. So please do go to redsift.com, register your interest, and we'll be in touch. Now, for absolute clarity as well, you will all be able to buy through the G-Cloud framework. Okay. We are the only vendor that offers MTA-STS, okay? And you can buy directly from us on the G-Cloud marketplace, Okay, so if you prefer to buy directly, you can, but also if you prefer to buy through a partner, that's okay too. Most of the partners that you will all work with do have Red Sift on the rate card, so you will be able to work with us. Okay, so really simple, really easy to use. That migration timeline, someone's asked another question, what does it fairly typically look like, not just for OnDMARC and for other products? Well, as I said, for OnDMARC, typically it's a matter of weeks. Okay, it's very quick and it's very easy to actually do. What's even quicker and easier is moving over onto our ASM and our certificates products. For most customers, you're up and running and receiving insight within a matter of hours, maybe 1, maybe 2 hours, and that's it. Okay, it's so easy to set up. It's so easy to do. There's no dependencies on your infrastructure. There's no dependencies on you. There's no dependencies on any other third parties. In most cases, you're up and running and benefiting from the checks within a matter of hours, actually, if not in minutes. Okay. So we're now at time. I'm a little bit over. So thank you so much for joining today. Really appreciate you taking the time out. I hope you found some benefit to that. Your next steps, assess your current usage, document what you're monitoring, document what you need. Review the NCASC Buyer's Guide. Okay, take a look at the ACD 2.0 project. Then evaluate providers. Look for solutions that match your requirements and match your budget. Plan your migration. Give yourself plenty of time. It's the 14th of January already, which is totally terrifying. And then test and validate. Ensure the new solution provides the coverage and alerting that you actually need. I've been through Q&A already. Talk to us. Go to redsift.com/demo. Drop me an email directly if you know me. We'll be more than happy to set up a call and help you make sure that you meet the deadline for those deprecated services. Thanks again for your time. Thank you for joining, and I look forward to speaking to you soon.